Welcome everybody to another edition of the In the Paint Show presented by Ballislife. Here with my co-host Chelsea Hopkins from overseas. We have a lot to talk about today, Chelsea. Obviously, you being overseas is a big enough in a story in itself. Obviously, that has a lot of meaning now to our listeners and the people out there. Just a lot has happened since the last time you've been on the pod. 115, we were talking about the WNBA. We were just talking about basketball in general with Kelsey Bone. And I think some of the things we talked about today are really going to mean something today, just in terms of like relations, what people focus on in terms of women's basketball in this country and abroad as well. So welcome aboard, Chelsea. Thanks for coming on again.
Yeah, thanks for having me back, Ronnie. I really enjoyed it the first time, and I'm happy to dig in and talk a little women's basketball and overseas.
Yeah, definitely. Again, like I said, in the 3 or 4 weeks that you guys came on and we're talking about the WNBA and its future, it's like what we're talking about in the WNBA right now in the last few weeks. It's just unfortunate. Like, there's not a lot of talk about like trades or preseason favorites and who's going to be the rookie of the year and who's going to be the MVP. It's always about what's going on like behind the scenes. So we're going to try to cover all that. We're going to cover a little bit of the fiasco with the New York Liberty and their travel accommodations, some of the online risks people have with each other, and obviously the situation with one of the league's best players, Brittney Griner. She's currently in Russia right now, and we all know what that means. In the last few weeks, Russia has invaded the Ukraine, which is a country to the south. So, Chelsea, the first question, our first thing I want people to know is, like, you're obviously in Israel, and how far is Israel from Russia and Ukraine? And just what's the general feeling like there, you being abroad and being an American citizen?
Thankfully, Israel is very calm. We don't really have too much going on around here. We're about 3 hours away, plane ride from Ukraine. So we have a lot of countries in between us, Romania, Greece, Turkey, Syria. So we're not really too much in close contact with Ukraine. So for us out here, we're just kind of going with the regular scheduled program. We're following the news and following everything like everybody else. I think you kind of do that no matter where you are. So we're following, the current events. But as far as being here, it's safe, especially for us Americans. We've had no real delays in our league. We're about to start the playoffs, as a matter of fact, next Monday. So actually, as of this weekend, a lot of the teams that didn't qualify are going to be going home. So more than half of the girls that play here will be leaving. And the rest of us have about another 6 to 8 weeks tops. So by the end of April, we'll all be returning home as well.
Gotcha. And let the people know, what are the general makeups of the team? Like, how many girls are from Israeli? And then is there like 2 Americans, or what parts of the world are they from?
Yeah, so, the way the Israeli league is set up, there's 10 teams, and most of the major cities have a team. And it's 3 foreigners per team. So you have 3 foreigners, and when you say foreigners, generally in the Israeli women's league, they're American. Most of the teams have American basketball players. We've all come across each other, cross paths at some point in time because we played each other in college or Division I or whatever. Every now and then you see a Bosman, which is basically a foreigner that's not American, somebody from Europe. So sometimes every now and then a team will pick up a Bosman, and usually they do that if they're playing in Euro Cup, because Euro Cup only allows 2 Americans, but in the Israeli league you need basically 3 foreigners. So you find a player that can join both the Israeli league and also Euro Cup qualifiers or competition. So, but that's kind of rare. There was 2 Euro Cup teams this year. Every now and then there's probably like at least 1, sometimes 2. So for the most part, it's foreigners. It's 3 per team. So that's 30 total. And we're all out here just, trying to make it.
Yeah. Finish the season strong and trying to make it, like you said. That makes sense. Now, give me the general sense of, has the locals, Israelis or other people, maybe even your coaches, administration, or the league, they've been talking to you about like, hey, Russia's maybe doing something here. You guys just be aware. They could be an invasion, or they could be, doing something to another. Did you guys hear any of that leading up to the invasion?
Not at all, honestly.
Wow.
They're just kind of more concerned about, the stuff that happens here. I
Okay.
think it would be something to be talked about if the Americans like feared for their safety, but
Sure.
we more so talk about it amongst each other. Especially
Yeah.
especially having a fellow, basketball player that's, kind of stuck in Russia, and Brittney Griner,
Yeah.
and just
Right.
other girls too, and people that we know from just the basketball community that are playing there. I have
Yeah.
a few friends that are playing in the Russian league or were playing. A lot of them have returned
Yeah.
home or went to different countries at this point.
Okay.
But no, they don't really talk so much about it here. Israel, and they always kind of are under attack and feel like, they have their own problems.
They
So I
got
don't
their
want
own
to
problems
say,
as a
yeah,
country.
I don't want
Yeah.
to say that they're like, sweeping the Russian stuff under the rug, but because it doesn't really affect them, it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, we'll get to Brittney in a little while about and maybe what any insight your friends or people in Russia
Yeah,
may
for
think
sure.
or say. But yeah, it's been a crazy couple of weeks as we know. Just to give the people the background, the latest with that is, it seems to be changing by the hour. Obviously, I think when there's a problem in America, they think the news they get is like the truth and gospel, but
Mhm.
you know,
Um,
obviously Israeli TV has a certain slant and view of it. I'm sure Russia releases what they want to the West, the so-called West, like here in America, and that's the thing I see is like people don't understand that every part of the world or different parts of the world have different
mhm,
views of the same
mhm.
topic, which we're talking about is a crisis between two countries. Do you kind of get maybe what you watch locally, or I know you can jump online, like obviously you talk to your family back home, is people getting different information, or is it when you talk to somebody from back home or online, are they getting basically the same information you're getting?
Well, we kind of from the people back home, that's where we get our information from. Like, in
Gotcha.
Israel, news outlets, they're speaking in Hebrew. There's
Okay.
a couple channels, I-24 or whatever, that have English,
Right.
broadcast. But for the most part, like I don't turn on the TV and watch the Israeli news. Like I'm getting my news from
Yeah.
our outlets, and
Gotcha.
I try to, stay away, not stay away, but just, try to do as much research as possible, because every outlet has a slanted view, whether it's, Fox News or CNN or,
Yeah.
whatever. So I just try to kind of do my own research and read and see what's happening. But I'm getting most of my information from the internet and from my family back home. I don't
Yeah.
really watch the news too much here.
Got you. Yeah, that totally makes sense. Yeah, it's very crazy because you hear like things of like provocation videos, like that that maybe even like the Russian military is setting up a certain situation, so there can be a reaction to like to create, like discourse or create outrage all over the world,
Mhm.
and then we hear that the other way that we hear that the Russian penetration maybe not as moving as good as Russia would want, and then other people are saying, "Oh, yeah, right. They can take over that country whenever they want."
Yeah.
So it's a scary time, and there hasn't been too much like that. Maybe in your lifetime, Chelsea, 9/11. I don't know how old you
Mhm.
were. The Gulf War, that was kind of big when I was
Yeah.
I was in school at the time, and it was like, "What? We're going to war?" Like it was pretty big. I remember where I was when I heard that some people were going to be deployed for the Gulf War in
Mhm.
1991. It was like, wait a minute, war? Like, why are we at war?
Yeah.
Like we're supposed to be at, like we're not supposed to be at war. Like that's something in World War II, Korea, and all that's old. Like, but no,
Yeah, you think, like, you read about it in books and stuff, and you just can't believe that,
yeah,
like, it's happening. And then you hear about
yeah,
all the threats and stuff, and who knows how credible they are. But Russia has nuclear weapons, and
yeah,
America's supposed to be the most powerful. Like if they do something, then we'll do something. And it's just like
yeah,
it's scary. Like I just feel so sad for the people that are just in the crossfire that
yeah,
honestly don't really, not that they don't have a dog in the fight, but they're not involved. And even
yeah,
the citizens in Russia that are kind of suffering too, in a sense, because we're taking away all of their monetary capabilities and access to
yeah,
everything, and a lot of those citizens are protesting and don't believe in the war either, but we're
yeah,
punishing them because it's like we have to, you know what I
yeah,
mean? So
for
it's
sure. It
just
affects a
hard.
lot of
Like,
people.
yeah, I
Yeah,
feel
because
sad.
Ukraine, yeah, 40 million people, or maybe it might be 80. Ukraine has a lot of people, like
Mhm.
more than California. It's bigger than Texas. So like people, and then people obviously in America watch a lot of movies, so they think war is like Saving Private Ryan or Red Dawn or any
Yeah.
like. It may not be like that, like you don't just overtake a country bigger than Texas. Like you're not gonna
Yeah,
just
and to
be the
just have to
strongest
pick up,
country.
I just think
Yeah,
about the people having to pick up at the drop of a dime.
yeah,
Like, I'm a homeowner. I have
yeah,
stuff, I have family. So for somebody to say, leave the country, leave your
yeah,
house, leave your belongings, leave
oh,
everything that you've worked for, everything that you have ever,
yeah,
accumulated from your family or from just personal, like leave it.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I just can't imagine. So I just feel bad for just the kids and just everybody involved that is like,
yeah,
having to just get out of there for their own safety and don't even really know where to go. All these
yeah.
refugees are just kind of going into any country that'll accept them at this point.
Wow.
Like,
Yeah, and that's not going to end for any time soon. So, yeah. Speaking of that, and speaking of your belongings, Chelsea, I know you like. I'm going to change subjects here. I know you like
yeah.
kicks and
Oh, absolutely.
gear. So I wanted to let people know about. I don't want to do it at the end because I want to see if people listen at the beginning as well. I want to tell people about our our new podcast. And it's and the Balls Life Network, Kicks of Your Life with Jordan McLaughlin of the Timberwolves. So make sure you check out the Balls Life podcast network on YouTube. Obviously we appreciate people listening in on Spotify, iTunes. So that's a new one, Kicks of Your Life. Like I said, with J Mac from the
Cool.
Timberwolves, he's going to talk about basically, shoes and lifestyle. Chelsea,
Nice.
you might
Yeah.
check that
You
one
got to
out.
have me on. We're going to have to
Yeah,
talk
he's
about
going
some
to have
stuff.
to have you on. Or we're going to have to get him on this one to talk about his podcast. So hopefully we can do that. I don't know how often he's doing it, but obviously he's playing in an NBA season or back and forth. So we'll check that out. But yeah, make sure you check out that one, Unapologetic, Buckets and Breakdowns, Noble and Roosh. So also this Friday on the 11th, March 11th, as you listen to this and watch this podcast, we're going to have a women's splash drop, our second installment of a woman's line. It releases, like I said, this Friday, matching sweatshirts, shorts. It's a limited release, so make sure to check out shop.ballslife.com then. This upcoming weekend, Friday the 11th, you can still use that one-time discount code in the paint for the In the Paint show. It's PAINT15. Once again, that's PAINT15, shop.ballslife.com. You'll see the advertisement on social media for our women's drop. And the guys were mentioning such like, why don't you give your co-host Chelsea some gear? I'm like, yeah.
I actually have a Ball is Life shirt, but I need to get my gear up because some of the stuff that you guys have been putting out lately has been fire. So
yeah,
I do have a
I'm
shirt,
like,
not with me,
like,
but
that's
I have one.
cool. Yeah, I appreciate you got a shirt, but I'm like, I think we're gonna have to wait till she gets back, guys. So we'll definitely send you some stuff when you get back from abroad, and we maybe even have to do a little review on what it is and really give your feedback of what you think how good you think it is. But again, this Friday we're going to drop some stuff, so appreciate that. So let's change gears. I'm going to talk about the current stuff that is going to happen in the upcoming days, and when we jump on next week's pod, we'll review it. But the state championships are happening in quite a few states, so I just want to go over that real quick. And the state championships are going down in Arkansas, Georgia, Illinois, North Carolina, Texas. The ones in Texas are big in California. So I'll be taking off. I'll watch the Pac-12 tournament here in Las Vegas for a day or so. Then I'm going to head to Sacramento for the state championships. State championships are happening for the first time since 2019. Yeah, it's been crazy. Yeah, it doesn't seem like that's a long time ago. And then it seems like I haven't been to a state final in a long time. Like just Nevada season got canceled completely last year. That's just
wait. Who do you got winning the Pac-12 on the men's side?
The Pac-12. I'll just go with the favorites, the number one seed, Arizona. I think they're playing really well. And next week we're going to get into our tournament predictions. So make sure you guys tune back in next week. Chelsea will be on. We'll have Ani on. We'll talk a lot about the tournament. Still, so much can happen. I think we were going to talk a little bit about this week, Chelsea, but it's like there's so much going on with the tournament, conference tournament champions. Like we can't break down our things. We're going to have to wait another week, and we'll see the brackets and see how it goes. But I have Arizona again. We'll see what Arizona does. I just really like the way they play as a team. Obviously, Tommy Lloyd, the former Gonzaga assistant, he took over that reign from Sean Miller, and they just played really well this year. They're really a close-knit team. They really play together. And on the men's side, I don't know how it is on the women's side, Chelsea. There's some college teams that are not really, they don't have both feet in. You can tell. They're good teams. They're good players, but they're thinking about the portal. They're thinking about the NBA. It's just obvious. Like, just sometimes when they play. Again, we'll get into that next week. But, what do you think about this? I want to get your opinion real quick. Again, Tommy Lloyd coming over from Gonzaga. Gonzaga, number 1, Arizona number 2. Like, do you realize it's been since 1997 since the West Coast teams won the whole thing? Did you know that?
I did not know that, but I'm cheering very hard for Gonzaga. We have a Vegas kid on the team. I'm from Vegas. If you guys didn't know that, Julian Strother, he's incredible. I know his dad. I know him. So, I'm always going for the home team. And, I'm UNLV. I'm Gonzaga. I'm Kentucky because they have girls players from Vegas there. I'm Tennessee. So I have so many teams that I just follow and keep track of. But Julian, I'm always rooting for him. And he had a great game against Duke earlier in the season on TV. And, if I could see a Vegas kid win it, then, hey, I'll be happy.
Yeah, that's pretty nuts because people are trying to figure out where they're going. I'm like, well, if Gonzaga's number 1, they'll probably be in the West. Arizona probably gets shipped to the Southeast. But I'm like, it's very rare that we have like the 2 best teams in the country.
And it's definitely geographical. You know how they try to arrange it, kind of like based. So it's going to be hard because, only one team could
be. Yeah, they're not going to be in the same bracket.
They have to go to opposite sides. So we'll see what happens. They
most likely won't meet to the championship game if they win the conference tournament. Obviously, you mentioned UNLV, the Big West tournament. It's at the new facility in Henderson.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, the Big West. So we'll see how UNLV does. And obviously, Bryce Hamilton and the California from Pasadena is having a really good season. I am really happy for Julian because, again, it's the microwave cookie cutter society. He came off the bench last year and everybody's like, oh, Julian, maybe he should go. So I'm like, that's the first thing people think about. Oh, it's how is he going to make it? But like, he's starting this year.
And he's a good kid. And he is a workhorse. I used to train with him when he was in high school. So I know how he works. I know his dad. I know his family. He has the right people around him, and he's going to be fine because he just works hard. And he's okay with, doing it the hard way. Everybody can't come and play right away and play, 30 minutes or 40 minutes and be a star. Like, he's okay with, being great later. And that's the ultimate goal. His dream is to play in the NBA. And, as long as he's making strides and trending upward, then he can get there when he gets there. Not everybody's going to be one and done,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so I'm proud of him. He's doing awesome. So hopefully he keeps it up.
Yep. And his sister did his sister play ball somewhere?
She did, yeah.
Yeah. His sister played ball as well. Yeah, I know his family a little bit as well. Yeah, the former Liberty standout. So we'll see, and we'll see how he does in the tournament. And we'll get back to that a little bit more next week when we have some information. So this Tuesday, as you listen to this pod, again, and when we get it live and you're listening, it'll probably be pretty close to the start of the Centennial Sierra Canyon game in the CIF SoCal Open Division. Centennial's been the top team for most of the season. They're ranked number 5 in my Fab 50. Sierra Canyon won the rematch against Harvard Westlake, which they lost to in the sectionals, but they beat them in the regional. So they're going to play on Tuesday night on the Lakers channel. Spectrum. So it's at 6 p.m. local. I know a lot of people have been asking, how can I watch the game? How can I, it's like, they don't know what channel is it on.
Yeah.
It goes from a local TV channel in the regular season to Bally's in the sectionals, and then goes to the Spectrum in the regional. So people are like, wait a minute, I already thought Sierra Canyon lost. California has a weird playoff system. So we're in the regional finals now this Tuesday. So Sierra Canyon versus Centennial, they haven't met this season. They obviously have played big games in the past. In the other NorCal final is number 37 in the Fab 50, Campolindo versus Modesto Christian. Both of them have been playing great. Campolindo's only lost 1 game. So I'll just make my prediction now for here. If my game would be close to over by the time people listen, but I'll say that playing for the CIF state final on Saturday at the Golden One Center will be Centennial in a close game over Sierra Canyon and Campolindo. Centennial's just been really good together. They only have 1 loss to Duncanville. Sierra Canyon has lost to Duncanville as well. Sierra Canyon has had different lineups, have some injuries. Amari's missed some time. I don't know if you.
I was about to say, is Amari good now? He's back,
Amari's
though, right?
Been good in the playoffs, and he's been doing good. Then Bronny's missed the game. Like, Bronny had a little hip pointer, got hurt, and then he missed the game. So they've changed their lineup, but they're obviously very talented. Most people think they're the only team that can really play with Centennial. Centennial's been rolling through the playoffs. Really? They just have a really great continuity. Coach Josh Giles does a great job there, and obviously they're trying to win their first. They've had a great program. They've produced a lot of college players and a few NBA players over the last 10 years, but they've never really won a state title on the court. Last year they won the sectional, but they dropped out of the regional because the season was in June. and they went to the live NCAA live period to play as a team instead of playing for the regional. Which was a great move for them because they had all a bunch of sophomores, and all those guys got scholarships based on what they did in the live period. So that was in June last year. The season was a little weird. This is kind of a quote unquote normal season. It's going to end at a normal time. So, those guys were mostly all juniors now. And like I said, Jared McCain, Devin Williams, Donovan Dent, who's the only senior in the starting lineup. He's going to New Mexico. They've been playing great ball. So
nice.
Right now, I'm picking them over Sierra Canyon. We'll see. The game will be tonight and Tuesday. So in Texas, Duncanville's in the number 2 team in the country's in their semifinal, Class 6A versus Atascocita. And the other semifinals, number 25, McKinney versus Austin Westlake. McKinney just knocked off Richardson in the regional quarterfinal. So those are the games that we'll be watching. I wanted to let people know, obviously, the McDonald's game is back. That's Tuesday, I think, March 30th. And so that's something that, watch. It's been off for 2 years. The game was not played in 220 and 221. And also the Nike Hoop Summit. I wanted to go over that. That's back at the Moda Center on April 8th. Nike Hoop Summit, where a lot of, we see the international players for the first time. Tony Parker made his name in that game. Dirk Nowitzki had a famous game in 1998. Everybody knew about him after that game. So wanted to run over the USA roster real quick, and we jump into our next topic. Amari Bailey, who we just mentioned a few minutes ago, Sierra Canyon. Grady Dick going to Kansas from Sunrise Christian. Duke commit Kyle Foplipski. Keontae George at IMG. He's going to Baylor. Derek Lively is going to Duke. Dylan Mitchell from Montverde. He's going to Texas. Nick Smith, North Little Rock, Arkansas. Their team's playing in the state semifinals this week. He's going to Arkansas, the University of Arkansas. JJ Starling from La Lumiere. He's having a really good year. Jerace Walker from IMG. He's going to Houston. Khalil Ware also from North Little Rock. They're actually teammates. He's going to Oregon. He's a center. And Derek Whitehead, Montverde, going to Duke. Cam Whitmore going to Villanova. So that's the USA select team. Obviously, we'll be watching that on April 8th. I'm glad that game is back. And I'm just glad those games are back in general. They just took a couple years off, and it's just, people. I mean, they've named the McDonald's team. We named the Ballislife All-American team.
I saw that,
but
no game was played.
It's a little odd. So I'm glad that those players are going to get in to enjoy that. So let's jump into our next topic, Chelsea. We have to mention the Lakers because we talked about it last year with Ani, but I got to mention with you because that's your,
my team.
You
for now.
Follow that
for now,
and you have good insight, and it's just we're not going to spend too much time on it, but just so much happens. It's like every day something new happens. So the Lakers get booed off the court basically against the Pelicans on February 27th. So they didn't make a move before the trading deadline, and everybody on social media is like, this team's done. They're washed. They're old. And then they play the Warriors, and LeBron has a 56-point game. So take us through that, Chelsea, what you thought of that. And then they come back out, and he doesn't play the next game. So it's just like a soap opera.
Yeah, it's so up and down with the Lakers. It's very stressful being a Laker fan at this time. But, there's always it's not over till it's over. Like the Lakers have to look forward to playing in the playing game, hopefully trying to advance, hopefully making it out to, either play the Warriors or the Suns in the first round. But until that doesn't happen, like as far as them not making the playing game, then there's always a chance. And, just like Bron has the ability to get up for 56 games, I think he can get up for a playing game and have that type of performance. I don't think that it's sustainable to think that LeBron is going to play like this all the time, being 37 years of age. But he definitely can get up for a game, so I'm hoping that Anthony Davis will be back at that time. I'm hoping that people would lay off Russ. Like, I feel so heartbroken about Russ. Like, I want to just give a little side note about him. The criticism is warranted, but I look at him and I look at his post-game interviews and stuff, and he is just defeated, like just mentally, like physically exhausted. And, I hate to say that he's so combative with the media and stuff because they're always on him. Like it's his defense mechanism. Like I have to come back at you because you're constantly coming at me. And, he needs to play better. I'm a basketball player. I'm not going to disregard his performance, but I do understand that he's a human, and I understand not playing to your ability, how you think you can play, how others think that you can play. Like everybody's had periods of time in their life, whether it lasted for a game or 2 games or, even a season, for us. So, it sucks. But, he's tough. I'm hoping that he can, bounce back and kind of figure it out. But the Lakers, to me, I think a lot of it is just simple. The lack of chemistry of constantly having people in and out of the lineup, the lack of fit in terms of just having players that just don't really go together. Like Russ needs the ball, Bron needs the ball. Like, they just don't go. And then just the age, Bron did a lot saying, keep the same energy. Our team is old, but we're fine. But it's like, no,
everybody's talking about us on his butt about that. Yeah.
The NBA is young. And a lot of these teams too, like they're just playing harder than the Lakers. Forget the talent. These teams are young and they're running and they're gunning. And the Lakers are like, slow down. Like we want to play, but not that fast. And
the Lakers remind me of when you go play pickup and that's that old group and they want to call every fouls when it's game point. That's what they look like. Like they don't want to lose because they don't want to get off, and that young team knows that they're better. Like, but they're
and it's just sometimes the pace of the game is it's too fast, and these kids don't care that Bron and Carmelo and Russ and they're Hall of Famers and they're top 75. These kids are hungry. I look at John Morant and the Grizzlies, and they were just talking crazy to Bron, talking crazy to everybody on the team. It's like, Bron, like everybody respects you, but they don't care about any of that. Right now, they're hooping, and you're going slow, and they're going fast, and they're winning by 20. Like, it's too much.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts because, as you mentioned, after that 56-point game, then they lose the next game. So since February 12th, they're 1-7 with, like you said, that 124-116 win over the Warriors.
But there's no consistency. Every day something's happening, literally, like every day.
And that's kind of like similar with his son's team at Sierra Canyon. They've had so many different lineups. Now they can win tonight's game against Centennial, but like you said, some games Ronnie sat out. Amari's been sitting out. They have a lot of really good players, as good as a high school team can have, really, like 8 or 9 deep. But sometimes, like you said, a team with more continuity is just playing better. So it's kind of interesting how those parallel each other a little bit. Now, do you think that, Chelsea, I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit. Do you think by them not making a move before the deadline has led to some of this, or they should have, or is this they were tied because of salary cap constraints, the salaries they make, and they just couldn't do much?
I mean, it was definitely difficult, considering what people make on the roster and stuff like that. But they had some teams that were kind of willing, and they were unwilling to give up picks and stuff that they gave up so willingly in the past. To kind of make a move. I felt like they had the cloud over their head of, the trade deadline's coming, what's going to happen. And then now they have the cloud over their head of not doing anything, and nothing has gotten better. So I was hoping that there would be some type of relief. Okay, the trade deadline's passed, Russell's staying, this is what we have. All right, guys, like, let's figure it out. But now it's like, this is what we have. Anthony Davis is hurt again. Can we figure it out? I don't know. It's so like I don't know. The Lakers are a mess, and I honestly wish that we would not talk about them every day because there's so many better, talented teams and things.
Great stories out there.
But people like the drama. The Lakers are drama.
Is
Ron playing? Is Russ upset? Is AD available? It's always something.
Yeah. So based on that, it's like people are talking about that new HBO doc, Winning Time. I'm not sure if I'm gonna watch. I may binge watch it. Again, we can maybe go over it if you watch it. Somebody's gonna have to tell me this is worth watching. This is good. You're gonna get a lot of it, because I saw it at the time. I felt like I lived through it. I was a kid at that age, or a young man. And I'm like, this is so awesome. It's not gonna get any better than this. So I don't want to ruin some of my memory of some of that. I don't know if you have any interest in that, but
I'm definitely going to watch it. Being a basketball kind of historian and fan of the game, I'm going to watch it. I don't know how much I'm going to enjoy it, and if it's going to alter, my view on, the Lakers or, their dynasty. I don't know, but, I'm going to watch it. Why not? And I'm overseas. All we do is watch shows when we're not.
Yeah. Playing. Okay. So I'm going to hit you up about that, and we'll see how many episodes there is, but it seems fairly interesting. I'm just not going to do it until somebody's like, Ronnie, you got to watch this. And that person has to be 40 some or 50, like, this is pretty good. It ain't gonna be like no 25-year-old like, dude, that was gonna be like, yeah, because you didn't see it in real life. So it'll be interesting, but hopefully they do it. Seems like it's pretty interesting. It's getting a lot of publicity. So we'll switch courses on that and get to our main topic. Our main in the paint topic, obviously, is basketball in a time of crisis. This is a crazy time, like we mentioned. The Ukrainian athletes have joined the military. That's just wow. Like, you see guys coming home from the Winter Olympics and like, I'm with my country now. Like, whoa, that's. And then obviously we hear the reports of, like anything else, people, like you mentioned at the top of the show, people trying to leave Ukraine. And now we hear reports of there's discrimination for people trying to get out of Ukraine based on what they look like. Like, it's never ending. I know that's got to be irritating you, Chelsea, or piss you off, or be like, dude, when does this ever end? Like, it's just a never ending thing. So, based on that, like, we, like you said, there's been, Europe is a huge market especially for women, like you mentioned, and the spots are at a premium. Does I know you mentioned Israel doesn't have like a lot of conflict right now. Is there a U.S. embassy that you've ever been to, or like, do everybody's in there told you with Chelsea, if you ever have an issue domestically, or if you ever have something that goes wrong, is there somewhere you can talk to other Americans, or is that not you talk to your team, or you talk to the owners of the team or something? What do you have?
All of us Americans stick together, so we're all constantly talking, just amongst the players on the other team. But there is a U.S. embassy here. It was a big deal a couple years back because the embassy was located in Tel Aviv, and Donald Trump moved it to Jerusalem, which was like very pleasing to like some people in Israel, and some people opposed it or whatever. So it was a huge deal. I've never personally been to the embassy because I've never had to. There hasn't been much conflict since I've been here. When they had a little flurry of, there's always the Palestinian-Israeli conflict that's going on or whatever. But as far as like Israel, like, being under attack, it's not like there's like rockets and stuff flying over our head every day. But there has been an instance, and it was last year actually for the first time, where, there was a little bit of warfare going back from the Gaza Strip to certain parts of Israel. So they were shooting rockets and stuff. It was kind of towards the end of our season. So I had already went home. But some of my friends were still here. And, it was kind of unsettling for them because Israel is, they like to recycle the same players. So a lot of us have been here for multiple years. I've been in Israel for 9 seasons now. A lot of my friends, 5, 6, so, all of us have been here without any, disturbance. And so last year was the first time, in my experience, that we've had, kind of something happen, and none of us were harmed. The season still finished. It was postponed and everybody made it home after a while, but it's just scary. So I just can't even imagine, being in Russia, being in Ukraine. I have a friend who was stuck in Ukraine, in Maurice Creek, who just recently got home through Romania. I have friends that play in Russia. A Stanton kid who was playing for Loco in Russia who went home. Like, a lot of the WNBA players, Natisha Heidman, she was playing there. They've evacuated. They've gone. Jonquel Jones, she's gone. The only person that's, still there is unfortunately Brittney Griner at the moment.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about Maurice. I know he went to Indiana, George Washington, and NBC team in Ukraine. So it's like from what I gathered and what we've seen on the media, and again, he was in a bomb shelter, and he had to leave the team. Talk a little bit about what you know about that, and maybe what he was able to relay to his friends, or via email or whatever, however he was able to communicate.
Yeah, so I actually met Maurice in Israel 2 seasons ago. He played here briefly before going to a different country. So I met him. We became friends. The basketball community is very small. Once you play somewhere, people are passing through, coming and going, you meet him or whatever. So I met Maurice or whatever. He actually was home, waiting for his next gig, maybe a couple months back, and he got a call from Ukraine, and he was ready to go. He's always willing to pick up and play. And so he gets there, he's hooping, things are fine. And then we start getting these warnings, that hey, Russia might invade, like it's becoming a big deal or whatever. when I talked to him on Instagram, he was saying like, the team kept saying like, no, like nothing's going to happen. Like he was asking like, should I leave? Like the team's like, no, you know how the news is, the situation's overblown and all this kind of stuff. So he actually had the opportunity to leave when things were kind of starting to get serious. And I'm not sure if he heard from the United States that it was time to go, but he definitely asked and thought like, hey, should I leave? And his team was like, no, we want you to stay. We want you to stay. Like, it's not that serious. And then before he can get out of there, it became serious. So he got stuck. He literally got stuck. He was hiding out, underground kind of, they have bomb shelters in all these countries because that's just kind of how they're built. It's not, it's very, it's not, customary in the United States to have a bomb room or just anything in any building for that matter. Like we just live, normally. But even in Israel, every house, they have a bomb room. They have these bomb shelters. So, he was basically kind of hiding out underground, trying to wait an opportunity to get out of there. His family was alerted back home. There's people that are trying to get in touch with him and trying to figure out how to evacuate. And he was stuck. He was stuck for a couple of days while the madness was happening. And fortunately, he was able to get out of there, I think through Romania.
Wow.
And get on a plane, but it took several days and people had already been killed and, bombs have already gone off. And he said he's sleeping and he's hearing them through the middle of the night. Like it was just so much unrest. His mom was so upset. He went live on Instagram a couple of times, just kind of explaining the situation. And, everybody's trying to put their resources together to kind of figure out, how to get them out of there, how to get him out of there. And, I just felt just as somebody who knows him, not even just his closest friend or his mom. Like I can't even imagine how his mom felt, but I just felt helpless for him. Like what can I even do? Like I'm sitting here in my country and I'm watching everything unfold and I know that you're there. So all I could literally do was check in on him. Hey, what's the update? Like, how's it going? Any news? Are you okay? Like, are you leaving? So I would do this, every other day until finally he said, by the grace of God, he was like, I'm on my way out. Like, I'm trying to get out of there. So, and it worked out and he's safe at home and it's just a mess. It was crazy.
Wow. That is a crazy story. I'll just give people the background. What I've heard or looked up is that, Americans have been evacuating the U.S. Embassy in Kyiv since at least January 3rd. At least, again, American citizens or people there. And then Adrienne Godbold, she played at Illinois. She got an email on January 6th from the embassy saying she and another pro athlete should evacuate immediately. But like you said, some of the teams may have been like, no, don't listen to that.
Teams are saying, no way.
Yeah. And so that's just crazy. How much do you trust or whom do you trust or turn? And then the agents and the players started asking their clubs to release them in February. But, some teams have not released their players from their contracts. So like you said, some of them went to other countries. Some have just gone home. So do you think those players are like, wait a minute, I'm not going to be able to go? Do you have any concerns, Chelsea, that they're thinking, again, when things calm down, maybe in a year or something, that they're going to be like not going to be able to go back to certain teams because they're like still under contract? Or are they like, you think that?
I mean, there's ways that you can fight it, but these teams, like, it's hard. Like, a lot of the teams, the players kind of are not in hostage situations, but it's like, you want to get your money. The league is canceled because it's not your fault. We literally cannot play because there's a war going on. So I want to go home, but you don't want me to go home because you want me to play games. And then you're not going to pay me if I do go home. And then anytime you go to another team, Ronnie, the way that it works out is you have to get a letter of clearance from your previous team.
Yeah.
So depending on the terms that you left, your old team, it's not always easy to just get that letter of clearance. Some teams will send it right away. But some teams will lollygag, and all it does is impede your ability to play for the next team because that's a FIBA rule. You need that letter of clearance. So, I don't know. I hope that there has to be some type of, like, no team in Ukraine can hold this against any player for any matter. Like, it's a matter of safety. But I can't honestly sit here and tell you that they may not try. You never know. Yeah. Like, you really just never know. It depends on kind of the relationship with the player and how it ended. So.
Yeah, because it sounds a little like when you explain that makes sense. And I hope our listeners kind of understand. It sounds a little bit like a disgruntled college who doesn't release a player from his transfer, like his letter of intent. Or
it's the same concept. It's the same concept.
Yeah, that's what that sounds like. So again, that's very interesting. And hopefully next week we have somebody on the pod who's we have a women's player who was in Russia. She's an American, so hopefully she can come on next week and share a little bit more insight what she got through to leave Russia, because she obviously was trying to get out or has gotten out of Russia. Thank God for her. So let's jump into the one of the main. Obviously, we want to talk about Brittney Griner a little bit. So obviously one of the best players in the world. She's led her WNBA team to a title in 2014. I believe she's only played for one WNBA team her whole career.
Yeah, Phoenix.
Phoenix. So I mean, she's one of the marquee players in the league, and
absolutely.
People bring up all these things. They're saying, well, America is at fault. Why should she ever have to leave? We're not paying her enough, and then other people are saying, well, we don't have control. Like, we don't know. Did they plan it? Did they plant something on her to detain her? Other people are saying, she should have followed the rules. She's not in America. So when you first heard about this, Jesse, what was the first thing that came to your mind?
Total shock. And I want to tell you why. I was only shocked because not about the incident, but to find out that she had been detained for 3 weeks. Like, okay, she had what she had allegedly. Like, we honestly don't even know. It was, cannabis infused oil. I never want to disregard a country's rules, because obviously the things that are legal here are not legal anywhere else. So as a person, you take responsibility for that. But at most, it should be a slap on the wrist. Send her back to her country, fine her, do whatever. You have no reason to detain her for 3 weeks, to not allow her to speak with her family. People make mistakes all the time. She's obviously not a citizen of that country. So maybe she wasn't aware. Maybe she was. But at the end of the day, send her back to where she's come from, and and deal with, if she ever wants to return, here's the repercussions, here's the consequences of what's previously happened. And that to me would be the best case scenario. And I know it's not up to me, but I just don't understand. Like, I don't understand, why she's been there for so long, other for political reasons. And, I would, if I had to guess, I would say that she's the most high profile American there. Still there. If I had to guess, all of our premier, top WNBA players play in Russia, and all of them are at home at this point. Jonquel Jones was talking about how she struggled to get out of the country, but she got out. Natisha Hydeman, the list goes on and on. There's a lot of WNBA players that play in Russia, and all of them have gotten home. And even amongst all those people, Brittney Griner is probably the most notable, the most high profile. She's a Black woman. She's queer. She's gay. There's LGBT laws that are different in Russia, that they hate other stuff, So it's just so much controversy surrounding the issue that I'm honestly terrified for her. Like, I really just, pray that she can make it home safely, and, she can deal with whatever comes with that after she gets home. But, she doesn't belong there. That's just my take on it.
Okay. And as you're terrified for her, I feel for her as an American citizen. I'm terrified for our citizens and their reaction and how uninformed they are, Chelsea. And before, as we talk about this, and I want you to talk about the perspective you gained in the 9 years that you've been pro, and respect for other countries and how they live and things like that. But when I first heard about Brittney Griner's situation, all I'm hearing is, like, mostly people on Twitter and other places you get social media is like, oh my God, why haven't we heard about this before? Why haven't they let her go? I'm like, guys, are you this uninformed? Like, are we this, I guess, shallow as Americans? Like, we don't understand what's going on in other countries, or what they do, or what they're going through. Like, Russia's a huge country. It's invading another country. It's not really an ally of the West. We have no diplomatic relations right now. We don't have any diplomats there in that country. Like, do you think our young people are just not informed, Chelsea? Or they just don't have, to their credit or to their, lack of knowledge, they just don't understand because they only know the American media. What do you think the problem is there?
Yeah, I mean, just people, unless you choose to do your research on stuff that's happening, like, when things are out of sight, they're out of mind. That's literally how it is. So everybody has an opinion on everything. But if you're not educated to know what you're talking about, like, you're really just talking. So I think a lot of people just have no idea. Being in a foreign country, the culture is different, the rules are different, the laws are different. And I'm not saying that Brittney didn't know. but there is a chance that she didn't. There's stuff in Israel that I had to adapt to and get used to. You know, a lot of people speak English here. But you know, in Hebrew and in their language, they do a lot of hand gestures. We don't do gestures in the States. Like everything is a learning curve. Everything is an adjustment because you're literally in somebody else's space and place and just trying to figure things out. So, you know, a lot of people, it's easy to say, you know, woulda, coulda, shoulda, what you would have done. But if you're not in that situation, you don't know. You know, so I'm going to defend Brittney because she's one of us, you know, but I'm also going to say, like, even the media outlets, some of the headlines are Brittney Griner, you know, detained for drugs. Well, is it cocaine? Is it heroin? Like, be specific. Like, you can't, like, it's literally cannabis oil. Yes, it is illegal. You know, it's not illegal in the United States. Did she leave it in her suitcase? We don't know. But sometimes the headlines are just so deceiving and so misleading. And you have people that just take that little one sentence that they read and they run with it. Like, you know, you would think some of the reports, you would think she was dealing drugs in Russia, the way that they try to describe what they found in her suitcase when it was a measly bottle of oil, cannabis oil. So that's the part that's hurtful to me, is people speaking on the situation, having no idea, never giving anybody the benefit of doubt. But, you know, Americans are so patriotic and, you know, innocent until proven guilty. But here comes Brittney Griner, and they're now posting, you know, pictures of her being detained. And as an American citizen, you don't feel any empathy, any sympathy for her being away from her family and being stuck.
You should.
And we don't even know what happened. All we know is what's being reported.
We don't even know what really happened, like you said. So that's what brought my eyes like, wait a minute, guys, this is not Las Vegas Metro. Like, if she gets arrested, it's not going to be out 5 minutes later. Like,
it's very serious.
It's a serious issue. So, you know, they're saying just release her. Oh, Biden, get her out. Like,
it's not that simple. I wish it was.
Yeah, I just a little scared for people that just are not uninformed. So my take would be on this whole thing, guys. Please read multiple different you know, sources of information, get knowledgeable. But and then this other thing that Brittney shouldn't, and other girls should never have to be to Russia. Like, wait a minute. You guys want to stop her money? Like, now you're saying he shouldn't get paid. What? Like, of course. Now this is just a once in a lifetime or once in a decade type of situation. But like, I would never tell no girls, including you or anybody else, like, don't go to another country to not get paid. If the WNBA ain't paying all year round, or you're not good enough to, you know, if they're not paying, we know they're not paying enough to sustain what you want to make. Go get paid. Why are you telling these girls not to get paid? Oh, they shouldn't be in other countries at all. What are we talking about?
Yeah, and Brittney's been in Russia for several years. She's made millions of dollars there. She's made a ton of money.
Yeah, she's helped her family, helped her family's
absolutely
lifestyle.
And you know, it was ultimately her decision to go. You know, the WNBA is not year round. They only pay what they pay. Everyone believes that they should pay more, but the two things, like,
they're not though. If they're not,
and the two things, honestly, it doesn't matter. She's there. She's stuck. We need to bring her home now. It's not even about basketball at this point. It's about her getting here, and we can figure out the rest when she's with her loved ones and the people that care about her the most.
That I agree with that. And I just wish people would be more informed on this all the situation in general with that, you know. And there's just been so much with the WNBA regarding that. As we talked about that last time, as we switch gears a little bit, and then hopefully she gets home, and hopefully by this time in our next pod or in future, you know, that we get some word that she's on her way or that she is getting home. And obviously people are going to want to hear what she has to say when that happens. And hopefully that does happen. But there's no guarantee. Like you said, Chelsea, the laws, I wanted to make this point. They said the same thing during the Olympics when the sprinter got disqualified, you know, the Sha'Carri Richardson, and everybody, I just don't understand people's point. They're saying, well, like it's legal, weed is legal in 37 states or 36 states or whatever. It's like, this is the Olympics. You guys you're not, wake up. Like, not as you mentioned, not every country looks at things the same. They don't look at LGBTQ the same. They don't look at relations.
Everybody has different views. Absolutely.
Everybody has different views. So I wish people up there would do a little more research, get a little more informed about that, so that they can share better, you know, top topics and share better thoughts on each topic, instead of just spewing out the mouth and spreading rhetoric, which is not going to help Brittney when she comes home. You know, it's just not going to
Mhm.
help her. Like
Yeah.
it's going to be a difficult situation. So let's talk about the W a little bit. I mean, Chelsea, so much has happened
Yeah.
since our last spot, and I wanted to bring up the point that you and Kelsey Bone had mentioned about the Atlanta Dreams owner, and that you're hoping that's an isolated incident, and that most of the people look out for the teams, the players, and their personnel. But I wanted to mention with this New York Liberty situation, and I'm looking at it from a man who doesn't own a team and who grew up, and not a lot of people were talking about girls basketball. When I was a kid, it just I know there was high school ball, there was no WNBA, and I kind of got that. I went against opposite you guys. I was like, some of these owners are just doing it to pat their own ego,
Mhm.
to tell their friends, "Hey, I own that team." Yeah, it's who cares, kind of thing. And
Yeah.
that kind of came out with that the Liberty thing. Was like one of the owners mentioned, and I'll just quote what he said.
Mhm.
Hey guys, I own a team. The value is zero. So I'm just doing it like to help women's sports. And
Mhm.
I wanted to get your top thought on that now, because based on what happened, they were even talking about maybe disbanding the Liberty. At the end of the day, the fine ended up being $500K. Because of the situation where they were chartering flights for the players. Well, the rest of the league wasn't
Yeah.
supposed to based on their rules. So, it kind of, we mentioned that on the episode 115. If the WNBA doesn't get rid of people that are not involved or invested for the right reasons, we're going to continue to talk about
Mhm.
off the court topics instead of the quality of the play or the great players. What do you
Yeah.
think?
It's sad. There's just so much, like, I can really go in on this issue like
Sure.
forever.
Yeah.
But, as far as the fine, let's start there with the
Yeah.
Liberty. So
Yeah.
first of all, the original fine was 1 million, which is like, okay, come on. Like, you never pay the girls $1 million. Like, it's like
Franchises,
ridiculous. Like,
yeah.
it's just way too much money for a team. Most of
Right.
these teams are barely valued at $1 million, if value at all, according to the owner that you just quoted.
Yeah.
So they dropped it down to 500K.
Yeah.
And I understand the collective bargaining agreement. There are
Yeah.
rules. You don't want to give competitive advantage. But the thing that was notable to me, which I don't even know if they were trying to prove whether or not this was true or not, but they were saying that, when they originally, the owner for the Liberty, when originally was talking about these chartered flights, that
Yeah.
he understood that every team didn't have the ability to do it. So they kind of set up, this proposition from, whatever airline to basically charter these women's flights for, 3 years, and then figure out how we can keep the partnership going. Money
Right.
has to obviously be involved at a later date or whatever. And they said that the WNBA declined this. So my thing is like, the CBA is hindering the growth of the league in, for treating its players how they should be treated and how they would be treated in any other league besides the WNBA. Like, I understand money is always going to be the root of every single thing. But,
Yes.
You are finding a team for trying to do something in the best interest of their players when they understood that it is only affecting their players. They try to figure it out for all players, and then you say no anyway. So how does the league grow? How does the league win? Like,
the
it's
league's
just
not going to win that
it's
situation.
it's a terrible situation. And then the president comes out, she's denying all these reports, whatever. Next thing you know, they talk about that $75 million investment that me and you and Kelsey talked about on the last episode. And the people are saying, well, let's use this money to charter the flights. Since you say it's going to run us about $20 million a year. Oh no, like, we're going to use the money for marketing. Well, there's not enough marketing in the world. Put the girls on the charter flights, use the other 55 million for whatever marketing scheme that you want to do. Yeah. Which I just can't imagine. This better be the best marketing, Ronnie, I've ever seen. If you're going to put
55 million is a lot of money. I know you can.
No, 75, because she doesn't want to put the 20 towards the chartered flights. So it's 75. And this better be the best marketing that I have ever seen, because the WNBA has lacked in so many areas. I just can't fathom having $75 million of marketing and not being able to source out that money to different things and addressing the players' needs. This has been a player concern for so long. And to say that we don't have the ability to address it, especially when we just received $75 million in investment, I don't understand. Like, there's so many things that are not being done. And, who am I? I'm just a person on the outside looking in. Maybe
Sure.
Kathy, the president, has, some type of insider info of why they can't do the things that they're doing. But the players are disgruntled.
Yeah.
How do you want the league to grow? How do you want the league to be better when you don't even hear your players and try to reach some of their demands? And they're asking, honestly, for the bare minimum. They're asking for what everybody else gets in their leagues, to not have to travel Southwest on a crowded flight the day before a game, maybe be delayed, maybe not make it on time to the city, have to play the game anyway, and then go somewhere else 2 days later. So, it's difficult. I understand there's a lot more ins and outs that, we, the public, don't know about. But it's just sad. We need to find some type of solution. And I'm not really hearing anything but fines, and we have money, but we're not putting it there. And it is what it is, kind of thing.
Yeah. That came apart real crazy, because it's like you said, they got the $75 million investment, but like they're turning down something that the one thing that the players, obviously Kelsey mentioned, that they want first and foremost.
The most, yeah.
So it's a,
and the money probably doesn't all come at one time. Like, obviously, you know how investment and stuff works, but but you're basically saying you're not willing to do it.
They're basically saying they're not willing to do it. So live with it.
It's just no. We don't want to do it.
Yeah. So you wonder like how much, to me that affects, like, do some girls want to work with the WNBA in the future after they retire? That affects a lot of things, because they could build like, hey man, I'm doing this because it's the only league here in America, but like I'm not really going to be messing with it once I'm done. That's what
But you see most of the women now, they're in the NBA.
Yeah.
The most prominent women, besides Becky Hammond, who just returned, Swin Cash, Teresa Witherspoon, these are prominent WNBA players that do not work for the WNBA. And I cannot speak for them and tell you why. But when I look at stuff like this, I kind of feel like I know why. Like, look how the operation is
an outsider. Why would you not want to work for that organization?
The NBA is, it took a lot of time to get to this point, but it's ran like a well-oiled machine. And there's women in these prominent, front office positions that are making waves, that are, Becky Hammond was an assistant coach, and Teresa Witherspoon's assistant coach, and Swin Cash is in the Pelicans front office. Like, they're making strides. And, we need women to come back and to help make these changes with the WNBA. But looking and seeing how things are, why would I want to? Like, honestly.
Yeah. A lot of the prominent names are not involved, and they're just not. And like you said, even if they were involved in the front office, if are they going to make the great statements that you want to hear, like former NBA players make? And like, and we talked about playing the game forward. I think that's one thing that when the NBA became prominent in the 80s, and I'm sure we're going to find out some of that in the Winning Time documentary, like one of the great thing is that even though no matter how they played or how bad, like Magic Johnson always had a smile on his face. Mm-hmm. And like, you're not seeing that from the WNBA community. Like when they talk about the WNBA. No, they're disgruntled.
Not. And they love basketball, and they love the opportunity to play in front of their family and friends. And, they love being able to accomplish one of their dreams, but it's not easy. It's hard. Like, people have no idea, and you think that as a pro that people are just living this lifestyle that's just, incredible, but it's not always like peaches and cream all the time. Like,
no, not at all. So maybe the WNBA, in my perspective, is going through like internally what the NBA and the ABA went through in the 70s a little bit. Like, you got to get it right, get the imposters out, in essence, quote unquote. I don't know the word to use. Like, get the people who don't really want to be involved out, and then maybe you can get to where you want to go. Because that's next topic I wanted to bring up is the Players Association versus Ariel Chambers. It was a tweet earlier this week, and again, I follow her a bit, and from what I could tell, again, I'm a now totally outsider to that. Like, she's as big as an advocate as you're gonna have on the women's side, but like, then they add her in the tweet, and all the fans just turned on the Players Association. Take us through that a little bit. What happened, Chelsea? And then, like, why are you attacking the person that's advocating for you? I don't know.
First of all, you can argue that Ariel is the biggest women's basketball, advocate that there is, especially on social media, especially on Twitter or whatever. So, for them to kind of single her out, just being aware of everything that she's done for the game and pushing it forward constantly, you know, on the WNBA scene, even at the NBA All-Star game, she's interviewing the players. Who's your favorite WNBA player? She's asking questions that we all want to know that kind of never gets talked about because it's the WNBA and nobody's talking about the WNBA besides her, to be honest. So the fact that she feels so passionate about that league and not even ever have been a part of the league because she's never played in the WNBA, you know, but just to feel so passionate and strongly about something that you have not dedicated your life, but you've spent a lot of your time, you know, trying to push the game forward and talk about how the league is important, how these girls need somebody to look up to, how, you know, just the list goes on and on of things that she's done. And it was truly hurtful. I don't know who runs the WNBPA's Twitter account, but you don't have to stray far away from women's basketball to not know the advocacy that this woman has for the league and for its players.
You don't have to be a WNBA.
Like, you don't have to. You don't have to know anything about the WNBA, and you can go on Twitter, and at some point in time, a tweet from her is going to pop up on your feed about, hey, this is what's happening. The WNBA is important. Pay these women, respect these women, everything. So them to even single her out, one, and to think that, you know, she is doing anything other than pushing the game forward because of just a word that she used. I think she said bet on women, as if and they took offense to it because they felt like there's some type of risk in using the word bet, and, you know, like, which is just something that's so small and so like, you know, she has her own platform, highlight her, where it's all women's basketball, college basketball, you know, high school basketball, like just everything. Like to take that small little word and kind of just misconstrue it and twist it into something else for your own narrative is just really, really upsetting. And I think a lot of people took offense to it. And a lot of the players who love her got behind it. Like, what are you talking about? Like, look at the tweets every single day. She's representing women. She's representing our league. She's trying to push it forward. So for you to think that she's going against any type of, you know, thing that's women's basketball related is just sad. Like, it's sad. And we all need to band together. Like, even if you felt the way that you felt about the word that she used, you could DM that. Hey, you know,
our Flores side say, Ari, could we just have a meeting and we want to try to change this slogan or wording a little bit so we can, like, so it doesn't misconstrue like to people that.
But they singled her out and did a whole like, these are people that you need on your side. These are people that are doing a lot of the on the ground work that I don't know who runs that account. I really don't know, but that's why everybody was upset. But it's like, this is you know, somebody who's on the front lines fighting for this sport every single day. And here you come trying to create some crazy narrative that she's using the wrong, you know, verbiage in the message that she's trying to get across. Like, we don't like it. And everybody knows what she meant, bet on women. It doesn't mean that there's any risk involved.
Big gamble.
Put your money in it. Put your money on them because it's going to be worth it. That's how I took it. I didn't take it as, oh, it's a risk and I'm in Vegas and I'm about to lose a whole bunch of money. Like, nobody took it that way. Besides the WNBPA, whoever runs that account. It's crazy.
Because to me, that proves what I'm saying earlier in the show. They know the people that they're dealing with, the owners and some of the stakeholders don't care. But that's dealing with those 20 people, not the world, not the fans and everybody that Ari's talking to. She's not talking to owners when she tweets and talks about how the girls are playing forward, they're bet on them. She's talking about the public.
And Ari is talking with the players. So everything that she's saying, you can say, well, you're not a WNBA player, so why do you care? She's getting the information right from the sources. They all engage with her. Go look at her followers. They're retweeting her. We love you. We're sorry they upset you. Like everything. So it's like, you know, it's coming right from the source. All the information that she says and the advocacy is coming from the players, their concerns, how they feel, what they want to see happen. And she's not even a player in the league. And she's doing all of this. I feel like, you know, you can't do anything but respect it. So why would you try to downplay it or make it be something that it's not?
Yeah, it's very difficult because people, and I'll include myself and other people that watch the men's side, dabble in the women's side, watch a little bit, watch good basketball. You just want to watch good basketball. Like, it makes those people, especially if they don't have no vested interest, to want to watch and say, oh, these girls are just fighting. They can't get it together. Like, that hurts.
It's hurtful. She was very upset.
it leads to stereotypes that if they're just arguing, cat nipping at each other, and they don't need that. They need all the support they can. So, hopefully more positive information and something positive will come out of that. Obviously, we want to see Brittney Griner return, and that it'll be a flashpoint to get people to really understand what's going on in another country, and what's going on. So we appreciate your insight of what's going on in Israel and other places like that, and the insight you had on Russia. And like I said, hopefully next week we can talk to somebody who actually wasn't playing in Russia and get her insight, because we'd really like to hear what she'd like to say. But I think for now, we'll wrap up. And like I said, it's been just a crazy week. And Chelsea, just in your perspective, now that you've been abroad for that long and living in growing up in Nevada, despite our problems, like you said, we don't live with the threat of bombs and things like that. What do you share with your family, and what do you tell your friends? Like, man, I've learned so much. The game has taught me so much, or being involved in the game, I've been able to be blessed to see so much. What's your final take there on this situation and what basketball has done for you?
I mean, just basketball aside, honestly, being immersed in different cultures, and I've only played in Israel, Jordan, Puerto Rico, like only a few places, but basketball has allowed me to go to China, to Greece, to Spain, to France. I've been to all these places because I have, friends that are playing in nearby countries, and just visiting, being close by. Like, I just feel so much gratitude for, the opportunity that I have in front of me to just wake up every day and do what I love and play basketball, and do it to a level that I'm able to support myself and make a living. I make enough money to only work 6 months out the year, and all I'm doing is practicing 2 hours a day and playing twice a week, and the rest of my time is free to do whatever, but I just see, like, like I said, being in different places, how I just kind of felt helpless for the people in Ukraine and my friend. And, it just makes you appreciate, like, what you have. Like, there always can be, you being in a situation or a circumstance that's not favorable, but I've been just blessed to be, on good teams, to receive payment, to be safe, to never have to flee a country and worry about, or have my mom worry about me on Instagram trying to figure out, like, how I'm going to get home. Like, it just really gives you a lot of perspective. And, I love basketball, and you have to love it to be a pro, to be overseas, because it's hard. You have a lot of BS that comes along with, not performing, and maybe you don't have the guaranteed contract and the team wants to send you home. And, there's all that stuff that goes, but it's really on a small scale compared to just the opportunity that you have, being blessed to be somewhere else, to do what you love, and, to just play a game. It's like, I'm playing a game. So to me, I always try to keep that in perspective. We lost the other day, and I'm down, like, dang, we lost that game. But then you wake up and there's real stuff happening everywhere else. Like, I lost a game. When is Brittney Griner's next game? She's locked up. We don't know what's happening. How are the people in Ukraine doing? Like, there's just so much other stuff that it's like, it gives me perspective, and it gives me balance. At the end of the day, I played a game. We didn't win, and life goes on. And there's so much other stuff that's happening that's, that I shouldn't even, bat an eye about me losing a basketball game in real world events. You know what I mean? So for me, I'm blessed. I'm fortunate. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to say that I've been a professional for 9 seasons, and, I've been able to have great success in basketball. But, I'm happy that I've learned and I've seen a lot along the way, because it's really shaped me, and it's really given me, just kind of idea of how other people live and their cultures, and, how it's different from mine. And it makes you appreciate, where you came from.
No doubt. Well, yeah, I appreciate that. And we appreciate the insight. And like I said, as we wrap up here, hopefully next week we'll touch on this. Hopefully some good news comes from, the situation with Brittney and just the situation abroad, anybody who's been infected by that. And we'll talk a little bit about lighter topics. We want to talk about, obviously, the upcoming NCAA tournament. Hopefully there's some good news there. We're going to get your take on that. We'll have a little more information after the conference tournaments. And, until next time, on episode 120 of In the Paint, Ronnie and Chelsea are logging off.